Hi, bookish friends. It's me, Michelle, and today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite authors, Grady Hendrix. I have read all of his books except for his latest release, which is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. I haven't read this yet because I'm saving it for later on in the year, as I don't know when we'll be getting our next Grady Hendrix book, and I want to make it last as long as possible. So yeah, I plan to read this one, just not right now. I'm thinking maybe October. Maybe it's a good spooky season read. So yeah, that said, I'll tell you how I came to like him, what I like about him, as well as I'm going to rank my books from least favorite to very favorite. The first book I read of Grady Hendrix's was My Best Friend's Exorcism. Now, I was a child in the 70s, and in the late 70s, early 80s, horror movies such as Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, slasher films such as Texas Chainsaw Massacre were all really having a moment. So I've been a fan since I was a kid. When I saw this, I loved the cover. It immediately called to mind the 80s. And we are following in this book two young girls, Gretchen and Abby. They've been friends forever. They're in high school now. They've known each other since 4th grade. One day they decide to go skinny dipping, and Gretchen does not come out of that event the same person. It's about Gretchen gets possessed, let's say. And that's not a spoiler, but we follow their adventure and how Abby has to step up and become a hero in her own story. I love this book. It was great. I thought, wow, this is a really unique type of storytelling. I did not expect an author, a male author, to be able to write teenage girls so well. This is imbued with a sense of nostalgia for the era. It tells a really intense relationship drama story, and as well as being a straight up horror novel. So yeah, Best Friend's Exorcism, my first exposure to Grady Hendrix. Loved it. I thought, okay, I want to read more of his. So the next book I read, some time passed. I didn't get to his backlist until this book came out. It was brand new. I thought, okay, I've got to read this. It just came out. How to Sell a Haunted House. In this one, we're following a brother and sister who are tasked with having to sell their deceased parents' home, their family home. They've got an extremely dysfunctional relationship. There's a lot of conflict going on. And then right when you know where this story is heading, he pulls a 180 and it spirals into something completely different, something I did not expect. And as well as being creepy and scary, Grady Hendrix manages to be quite funny and quite ironic in certain parts of the book. I really like that. I think it really takes a talented writer to be able to come across funny, for one thing, and then to be ironic rather than sarcastic. Sometimes the line gets blurred a little bit there, but yeah, this was really great. I really love this book. It starts out one thing, ends up being another. I'm not going to spoil anything, but yeah, so after I read this, I was well on my way to Grady Hendrix fandom. The next book I read of his, I went to the Wayback Machine and I went to Final Girl Support Group, which is kind of an ode to the slasher flicks of the 80s, where we follow a group of women who have all survived attacks from a serial killer in one way or the other. They're going to therapy, and it follows them in their therapy sessions as well as in their real lives, like what is happening. There's a bit of a stalkery story at play. And yeah, this is not one of my favorites of his, but it's a shorter book, so I still was able to get my Grady Hendrix fix, and I'm glad I read it. The next book of his I read was We Sold Our Souls. Now, this one here is fantastic. We are following a lady named Chris who is middle-aged. I don't know, I think she's in her 40s. Anyhow, she's a former musician who used to have a rock band in the 90s. They disbanded because of conflicts and fighting and the usual reasons, but she's working at a Best Western Inn and she's feeling really frustrated with her life. Things happen. Things escalate very quickly. It involves her former bandmates. She is forced into a situation where she has to see all these people again. And it follows her revenge story. It's a good female rage kind of a plot where she very methodically kind of faces evil, and it's her fight against evil forces. I'm not going to say anything more, but this book, the pace is very fast. We're barreling toward a big event. As with most of Grady Hendrix books, there is usually a main event that you're heading towards, and this is no exception. I just found Chris so likable, so relatable in a lot of ways, which is kind of weird. There was laugh out loud funny moments in here. As scary and violent and creepy as this was, I also laughed, which to me, like I said, it takes an extraordinary talented writer to do that. So yeah, by the time I read this, I was like, I love this guy. I got to read everything he ever writes. So the next one I picked up was Horror Store. Automatic 5-star for the design and packaging of this book. Like, need I say more? It's supposed to be like an IKEA catalog because this story takes place in a big box furniture store, a Scandinavian furniture store in Ohio called Orsk. We're following some employees who end up having to spend the night in the store. Strange things start happening, horrifying things start happening, and things escalate. We get some folklore, we get some surreal elements, some really graphic gore. But the thing about Grady Hendrix that I like is that I find even his really gory scenes are perfectly justified. They're not, some people might not like it, but I find it, in line with his storytelling. So I never feel like it's too much. I've never had to put the book down or look away or skip a page here and there because I thought it was too gross. So yeah, this one, not for the faint of heart. What I really like too are the details that he put in this book. Like, for instance, we start off with the images in here being just like a catalog furniture. The further you get into the story, the more and more they begin to look like medieval torture devices. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I just thought that was brilliant. I gave this a 5 out of 5, 5 stars. Loved it. And the last Grady Hendrix book that I read was The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. To me, this is all the elements that people love about Grady Hendrix in a book. It's his vampire story. We are following Patricia in the suburbs. She's a wife and mother of 2 children. And her husband is quite the character. She's quite the character. In fact, Grady Hendrix said that he kind of loosely based Patricia on his own mother. I'm not sure what that says about his mom, or if she appreciated that, but it's great. It's a romp. It's very funny. Patricia joins a book club in her community. A bunch of ladies, all different distinctive personalities. Some are very religious. A lot don't approve of Patricia or her, there's gossip. They're all gossiping about each other. It's very funny in a lot of places. And yeah, it escalates pretty quickly when Patricia meets someone named James and they form a relationship. Like I said, she's not particularly happy in her life. Her marriage, he's kind of a deadbeat, her husband. Like, he's not really, I shouldn't say deadbeat. He provides, but he is a workaholic and he's not there for her in the ways that matter. He's not generous with his time. So poor Patricia has to run to her, she depends on her book club and her life outside of her home to keep her going. And then she meets James and everything changes. So there you have it. All the Grady Hendrix books I've read thus far. Like I said, I'm saving Witchcraft for Wayward Girls until a later date. But here's how I would rank his books from my least favorite to my very favorite. Coming in at my least favorite, and that's not saying anything bad about this book. This might be a controversial opinion because a lot of people love this book, but I put Southern Book Club at the bottom because nothing wrong with it. I liked it. I just enjoyed his other books more than this one. So this is my number 5. Then I would put, let's see. The next one at number 4, I would put Final Girl Support Group. Then I would probably rank My Best Friend's Exorcism at number 3. At number 2, I would put, 6, 5, 4. At number 3, I would put How to Sell a Haunted House. My number 2 favorite, this is hard because I loved, these two are both neck and neck, but I have to say Horror Store. And then my all-time favorite Grady Hendrix book is We Sold Our Souls. The reason why this is my number 1 is because this is a book of his that I would definitely read again, as well as Horror Store, maybe Haunted House. And you know what I think too? I think maybe if I had read this one first, it might be a favorite. It might have ranked higher. So just my personal taste. I totally get it if this is your favorite book of his. I understand completely. Thanks so much, you guys. Let me know in the comments if you've read Grady Hendrix, if you plan to read him, and any thoughts you might have about his books. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.